Tractate Bava Batra, page 167. We're getting close to the siyum, the completion of this beautiful Tractate Bava Batra. Today the rabbis teaches us the reality of life. People sometimes behave inappropriately, especially when it's come to money and documentations. They want to teach us the way that we should be extra careful and to take an extra measure when it's come to documentation, because unfortunately unscrupulous people have all kind of different way to fake document, forge document, and more. So it's not only to show us how smart the rabbis are, but also they want to lead us for all different directions when it happens and how. Obviously there are other subjects we're going to talk today, but let's start 3 lines from top of page 167. Amar Rabbi Hayman devai lemechevei chatimot yedei bevet dina. Here a person needs to approve his signature in the rabbinic court. So how we do that? Usually the Rashbam explained, and there are other avenues, but in a simple way, a person come before the court and just identified his signature. But what do you do if one of the witnesses is no longer among the living? You need to bring another 2 witnesses to approve his signature over the document. So lo lechavei besof migilta, he should not show it at the very end of the document, meaning he should not put his signature by the end of the document. Why? Because people are faking it. People just put incorrect information in between, and then they have his signature there. Dilma mashkach la'acher v'chativ demasik b'uzuze. Somebody else will get hold of that document and add, unfortunately, some wrong information. So therefore he can go after him and said, Yomi so and so. Utnan, we're going to learn, God willing, on page 175b. הוציא עליו כתב ידו שהוא חייב לו גובה מנכסים בני חורים. So they say that if one presents a deed or a document in the handwriting that he owe him money, now there are no witnesses that prove that he owe him. So therefore he can collect from unsold property. Property is currently in the possession of the debtor. So they want to give us several examples to show us how people behave. I meant sometimes you think how low people can go, but here are some examples. It was a tax collector, or Rashbam said Jewish tax collector, who soon you see a very unscrupulous individual. He says, can you sign on this document? I am a tax collector, so when people pass by, I want people like you not to pay taxes. So can you sign sample of your signature on this paper, so I know that I will free you from paying taxes. So Abaye was smart enough to write it on the top of that document. So so unfortunately he was the tax collector was pulling the parchment, the document, from the hand of Abaye. So why he does that? Because he wants Abaye to sign on the very bottom of the document, so there's a space on the top and he can fill it up with all kind of wrong claims. He said to him, the rabbis are smart to anticipate this type of behavior and how people should be careful with unfortunately crooked people like you, and therefore they warn us not to sign the bottom of the document. The numbers between 3 to 10, a person should not write by the end of the line, because sometimes in the Hebrew language you can add the letters Yud and Nun Sofit. So instead of saying Tlat, which is in Aramaic or Hebrew in a sense, Shalosh, Tlatin, Tlat, he had Yud and Nun, and instead of 3 is now 30. Arba can be Arba'in, so instead of 4 can be 40 and onward. Repeat the statement 3 times. So in short, that it will not be any term of faking the document or adding certain letter. We always said when there is a contradiction in the document, you go by the end. Here, you show several examples of people who tried to cheated the great Rabbanim and they caught. So a person purchased a field from another, and it was written in document 1/3. But this horrible person, what did he do? So he cut the top of the letter bed, the size of the letter. So now, instead of looking as a bet, which is bepardesa, you have within your field 1/3, it's written, guess what? Upardesa. You know what does that mean? That he claimed in that fake document that he purchased not 1/3 of his fellow's field, but his entire estate, and in addition his field. So he sued the other guy for the document that said that he owns everything. So the other guy said, what are you talking about? I sold you only 1/3. And he said, no, look at the document. It says that you sold me everything, including the field. Abaye was so smart and have a special siyata dishmaya, a special heavenly assistant. So he said, I notice here that the letter Vav that left have a lot of space between the letter and the words that follow. So kaftei ve'odei. So kaftei ve'odei is several explanations. In a simple way, he bound the purchaser, he subjugated him to a physical coercion, and he admitted to the forgery. So the Meiri and Yad Ramah and others said that you're not supposed to do it, and how you're supposed to do it, but basically he threatened him by tightening him. That's the common explanation. Obviously there are many, you're welcome to read Yad Ramah and Meiri and others. Another story, that a document that was written Menat Reuven, which means that the portion of Reuven and Shimon brothers. It's just example of names. So it means this estate that belonged to Reuven and Shimon sold to so and so. So there is another a brother whose name is Achai, which when writing without vowels, it spells identity to Ahei. Azal ktiv beivav v'shav ve'achai. So you add the letter Vav, and it's written in addition to the brother, which means the portion of Ren Shimon and Achai. So how come this letter Vav is separated so far? So the same story, Kaftei ve'odei. He bound him and he admitted of the forgery. Third story, it was a document that was the signature of Rava and Rava Chabarada. That document came before Rava. So Meiri said that he showed him the document. Rava said to the owner of the document, Dein chatimuti didihi. This is my signature. But I never signed the front of Rava Chabarada. Why? He's a very old person, Radama said. I'm much younger than him. You see here my signature before his signature. It has to be a fake document. Kaftei devoted the same way. He tightened him, he bound him, and he agreed. Amar lebishlam adidi zayaft. Since you fake my signature, because it's a simple signature to forge. Ela de Rava Chabarada de ratit yadei. Hey Chavid, how you did it to Rava Chabarada? He's old, he's fragile, his hand is moving around. How you'll be able to fake his document? Amar, so the guy that was caught, so he said to him, you know what I did? Every time I read it, I laugh, because he described how he was able to fake it. So he said, I put my hand on this type of robe, and so that robe was at the top of a bridge that was between the two river side. So what happened with that bridge? It constantly move around. So therefore, you know, the strong wind and the bridges in those days most probably were not so strong. So it's a result. His hand is all the time tremble. So that's basically the way to fake a signature of elderly person. That he's like Parkinson's disease and other disease. So he is basically trembling. So there's another version that he told him that he was standing up on the water skin, and he said v'chatav, and he signed this. So that's basically the way that he faked the signature of elderly person, like great Rav Rabbi Rava. Now the next Mishnah, dealing with the different documentations, if you can write and handed without the presence of people who involved with this, usually a document is not valid without the parties there. But here is an example. Here we have to differentiate between biblical law and rabbinic law. So biblical law, a man can write a get to his wife without her consent, because the Rashbam explained that biblically speaking, he doesn't need her to agree to divorce her, and that's the way they used to do it in the Mishnah and Talmud. About 1,000 years, especially in Ashkenazi community, Rabbeinu Gershom put a cherem, put a excommunication for a person who should not divorce his wife against her will. That's the Shulchan Aruch Even HaEzer 119. And therefore, the Tzemach Tzedek explained that you would do it only with her consent. Now, the deep problem is Nichsei Milog. As we explained many times, there are two different properties that wife potentially can bring. One is called Nichsei Tzon Barzel, and any estate that remain with her regardless to her personal situation, such as divorce or get widow. However, during her marriage time, he allowed to access to her estate. So explained in those days, for example, if it's an orchard full of oranges trees, so he allowed to access to the oranges, eat them, sell them, etc. Now, that's called Nichsei Milog as long as they're married. The problem is, listen carefully, guess what happened to people? Are you listening? Everyone listening? Listen. It happens sometimes during the course of marriages that there are problems, and they are not together at this point, and they're fighting. So as a result, he sometimes, without her consent, still use his right, because they are married, to access to Nichsei Milog, to access to estate that he benefit from that, while she don't agree, because whatever it is, they can be nowadays, they're living together, whatever it is. So here is the very sensitive dynamic issue between husband and wife, since it was not Nichsei Tzon Barzel, it wasn't the property itself, it's just the beneficiary that gets out of that temporary agreement. Is almost like business partnership. How far you go with his right to access to that. So again, it's all based on the idea of the Rabbeinu Gershom and others that say that you have to have her consent to the get. So if, in a sense, as long as she's not consented, it's very hard to impose him to stay away from access to her joint estate that he allowed to use as long as they're married, because of that sensitive issue. So soon as you see later on in a rabbinic responsa how serious it is when it's this sensitive situation. So it can go either way. As we said earlier, biblically speaking, the husband allowed to divorce his wife without any condition. That's the way they used to do it during the Mishnah and the Talmud. Later on, because of Rabbeinu Gershom, especially in Ashkenazi community, you need her consent. Because of that, then you have all this sensitive issue with Nichsei Milog, joint account, joint money, something that she brought to the marriage, and he access to the business, he access to the income, he access to certain things, and it's all interdynamic between how much he entitled, what he entitled, if he avoiding get from her or she doesn't agree to accept the get, and all this interdynamic applies at that time. But here is based on this Mishnah, Shoval Leisha. So as we explained many times, part of the get is after providing the get, she needs to give it to the Beit Din. The Beit Din heard and gave it just letter of approval that she's divorced. So that's called the receipt, in order to avoid all kind of people that does all kind of forgery and more. That's the rules. So part of that is that the husband paid whatever he commit himself in the ketubah, in the marriage contract. Even the husband is not present there with her. Obviously, there is a big discussion among the rabbis how far you go with that. You have the Chidushei Aran, Ramban, Rashbam, and many more. The condition later when they explain what does that mean. So the scribe that write all of that, he get paid by the husband. Now the Gemara. There is another part of the Mishnah. Page 167b. אין כותבים למלווה עד שיהיה לווה עמו, והלווה נותן שכר. So here you have the right of a scribe. Scribing the right a promissory note to a debtor, even the creditor is not with him. Then כותבים למלווה, but you don't write the promissory note to the creditor until the one who borrow is there, והלווה נותן שכר, and the debtor give the scribe his wages. כותבים שטר למוכר אבל פי שם לוקח עמו, ואין כותבים ללוקח עד שיהיה מוכר עמו, והלוקח נותן שכר. אין כותבים שטרי אירוסין, you don't write the document of betrothal that used to do in those days, ונישואים לעמידת שניהם, you have the consent of both the groom and the bride, וחתן נותן שכר, and the groom needs to pay the wages of the scribe. אין כותבים שטר יסוד וקבלות, לעמידת שניהם, you don't write a contract for the share corporator or the contractor without the consent of both parties, which is the share corporator and the contractor is one who hired them, him והמקבל נותן שכר, and one the share corporator or contractor gives the scribe his wage. אין כותבים שטרי בירורים, you don't write the documentation of arbitration, בכל מעשה בדין לעמידת שניהם, all the act of the rabbinic court, only the consent of both parties, ושניהם נותנים שכר, and both of them need to split the expense. רבי שמעון גמליאל אומר, לשניהם כותבים שניים, לזה לעצמו ולזה מוזר. רבי שמעון גמליאל disagree, and he says the scribe write two documents for two parties, one for each and one pay independently. מה הוא לבד שהם מכירן? What's the idea that the Mishnah said the condition is that he recognize the parties requesting the document. אמר רב יהודה, אמר רב בלבד שיהיה מכיר שם האיש בגט ושם האישה בשובר. You need to recognize the name of the husband in the bill of divorce and the woman's name in the receipt. יתיב רב ספרא ברכה בר אהונה ורב הונא בר חיננה ויתיב אביי גבאי ויתיב כבקמבא אלו. שם האיש בגט אין, שם האישה לא, שם האישה בשובר אין, שם האיש לא. ולאיחוש דימה כתב גיטה ועזר ממתלה לאיתתה ודאח. So maybe you're concerned that maybe the man who made the request write the bill of divorce and intend to go and give to the wife of another man with the same name. So the Gemara said, "V'zimnin azla kadva isha shovar v'yavel legavra delavdila." So a woman can write a receipt and give it to a man that is not her husband, whose wife shares her name. אמר לו אביי אחי אמר הרב, שם האיש בגט והוא הדין לשם האישה, שם האישה בשובר. והוא הדין the other way around. ושם האיש. So they said, how about if you concern ולאיחוש לשני יוסף בן שמעון הדרים בעיר אחת. You can have a name of someone, יוסף בן שמעון, that live, both people live in the same city, just have the same name. It reminds me one time, somebody I know in Israel, her name is Simcha. She met a boy by the name of Simcha. So eventually they get married, Simcha with Simcha. So you see, it can be husband-wife. In those days, it can be in one city, Yosef ben Shimon have the same name, first and last name. So you write a get, and he give it to the wife of another man, who bears the same name as him. So if they have two like that, they cannot divorce the wife, only the present of each other. So maybe he moved to a different location and he have the same name. He writes, get the same story. If you have the name 30 days in the city, you have no concern about him, that the name is false, we assume that is a true name. So the Gemara said, "Lo itchazak beha." So if a person come before us to divorce his wife, and you don't have his name established in the city, how do you know that it's not changed with a new name? That if suddenly someone call him and he respond the regular name, so Rav Zvid disagree. Rav Zvid Amar, this trick is not going to work. Why? Ramai b'ramaotei zahir. He says a liar is careful about uploading his lies, and just because he responds to being called by a particular name does not prove that he is telling the truth. So a newcomer will therefore have to wait 30 days before requesting that the scribe write him a bill of divorce.